According to the psychiatrist Alfred Adler, the hardest thing for human beings is to first of all know themselves and to second of all change themselves. And if you have been journeying through the self-improvement niche, you might have come across a lot of videos that talk about the only way you can make real change is by improving your habits. But if we do not change this one thing that we're going to talk about, then we will be stuck in this vicious circle where we'll be falling back into old habits that do not help us in achieving what we want to achieve. To illustrate to you why I am saying fuck habits, let's look at it from this perspective. Habits are only the tip of the iceberg. If you tackle habits as the only thing without working on the foundation that we're going to cover in this video, then you will continue falling back to old habits. For example, when you try to change your eating habits, you will fall back to your old eating habits that do not help you achieve your fitness goals or whatever, because you have not worked on the foundation yet. And to work on the foundation, we have to dive into one important topic that a lot of people do not even know of, and that is their behavior patterns. This is the subconscious layer that we have to gain awareness of, that we have to understand to change as people. Because if we work on habits first, as already mentioned, we will fall into vicious circles where we will fall back to old habits and we will not make any progress in life. Therefore, do not tackle your habits first. This is a hard lesson that I have learned myself. Obviously, when you change your habits, it goes well for a couple of weeks, but then you usually tend to fall back to old patterns because you have not fixed your behavior patterns. Fixing our behavior patterns helps us develop as human beings because we have to transcend to then work on the habits that help us become the person that we want to become. So to bring this point home, I have prepared for you a two-part system that will help us tackle the way we look at our behavior patterns forever. You might have noticed that sometimes you feel like you're the king or the queen of the world, where everything works out, you work on your habits, you go to the gym, you work on your personal projects, but then the next day, the next week, the next month, you fall back into a rut. Because what happens is that you are stuck with the old behavior patterns, the subconscious thinking patterns that keep you chained, that keep you locked down to that person that you still are. And this is also known as resistance, because your character is resisting to change. It is fighting for its life. If we want to change forever, if we want to make progress in life, then we cannot tackle our habits first, but we have to start with our behavior patterns. And to do that, I have prepared a two-step system that will help us in doing so. To start with the system, according to the psychiatrist Alfred Adler, as already mentioned, the hardest thing for us people is to first of all know ourselves and to second of all change. And this is how this system is built up. Because first of all, we have to start to know and understand ourselves. And to get to know and to understand the way we work, we have to go through a process of 3 steps. So what are even limiting behavior patterns? One limiting behavior pattern that I have identified in myself is that when I feel unfairly treated, when I feel like I do not want to waste time with a person, then I tend to avoid them. This is also known as fight or flight. But instead of fighting that person and instead of fleeing, I have developed a avoidance behavior pattern. And this avoidance behavior pattern saves me first of all from negative people, and second of all from wasting my time with negative people. So it does not only protect my mood, but it protects my time, and time is super important. But the one important thing that I have come to learn is that by avoiding people, I have a lot of unresolved conflicts in my life. But why is this even important? First of all, if you have unresolved conflicts in your life, then you will tend to think about them over the course of years or even decades. Let's say you have an argument with your mother. Then what will happen is that you will always have this negative emotion when you think about your mom. And all the negative things that come up into your mind at random times will block mental capacity that you can use to progress your business, your life, your friendships, or whatever. And another thing that I have discovered that might seem obvious is that when I do not resolve these conflicts with, let's say, colleagues, then I will close a lot of doors for myself. Because these people might have competencies, might have networks, might have perspectives that will be valuable to me one day in the future. And if I block myself from interacting with them, then I will not be able to receive their gifts and to learn from them. And therefore, going to a sub-pattern of the fight pattern, being confronting people, resolving conflicts with them, will help me open a lot of doors for my future. So this behavior pattern that I have developed, being avoiding people, after now discovering and working on it actively, I will never be done with it, probably. But by actively working on it and confronting people and resolving conflicts with them, I will be able to open doors for myself in the future. And with that said, if you look at your own life, what are the conflicts that are holding you back? What are the behavior patterns that are subconscious that are keeping you from progressing in life? If you take a deep look at your inner workings, at what patterns are anchored in you, at what mind games you play with yourself, then you will find out sooner than later that if you work on those, then you will develop into a person that is worthy of achieving the success that you want in life. So let's just look at the system. As already mentioned, first of all, we have to get to know ourselves. And to do so, I have prepared 3 steps that I am using to getting to know my behavior patterns that are anchored in me. As already mentioned, we have to gain awareness. We have to find out what are the things that are holding us back. And to gain awareness, there are a lot of steps that we could take. But first of all, we have to gain the mindset of being aware of what is holding us back. And by gaining awareness that we should be aware of what the patterns are that we have anchored in ourselves, we will be a step further than a lot of people out there. Because if we know that we have bad behavior patterns that are holding us back, then we can work on them. Then, after gaining this new mindset, we have to work on our patterns. And in this step, we will dive deeper into understanding what the things are. Here is where we have to discover what the patterns are, and to do so, we have a lot of tools at our hand. First of all, we can journal. Journaling has been a helpful tool for myself in discovering what is really going on in my head. By setting time aside to really work on my thoughts, on reflections about the days, about the conflicts that I had, about the problems that I'm facing, I am able to dive deep into my inner workings and to look at the behavior patterns that are maybe the cause of me not progressing in life. And this is where you have to sit down with yourself and to journal. Even people like Marcus Aurelius or the Stoics in general have been journaling their entire life. And by journaling, you have a super tool at your hand to progress as a human being. Because a cause of a lot of problems that we face in our human nature is that we do not set time apart to work on our thoughts. And therefore, journaling is super important and super useful to discovering subconscious behavior patterns. Other tools that are super helpful are meditation, because through meditating, you learn to focus on one specific thing. You learn to filter out a lot of noise, and by filtering a lot of noise, you will be more aware of what is truly disturbing you. Another important thing to get to know and to understand ourselves is to challenge ourselves. One super tool is to work out. And I do not mean that you go to the gym and do a couple of sets and you stop at that. I want you to push through the pain. When it gets difficult in the training, who are you? Are you the person that quits? Are you the person that pushes through the pain? Are you the person that has a high pain tolerance? It helps you in understanding who you are as a person, and you might also discover some behavior patterns that stop you from proceeding. And there are also other ways of challenging yourselves, and you might already know them. So try to discover with what ways you can challenge yourselves to find out who you really are and to get to know what patterns might be holding you back. There are obviously a couple of other tools that you can use, but these are the 3 that I am using on a daily basis to help me not only discover who I am, but to really understand where my limitations are and how I can break through them. So, once we have established a basis of who we are, why we work the way we are, and what behavior patterns we have to specifically work on to progress, let us move on to step number 2. And step number 2 is to change ourselves. After establishing our basis, after understanding what moves us, what patterns are holding us back, the next steps that you can take are to first of all build correctives for yourself. Why correctives? So let us look at this one example. Let's say one behavior pattern that you have identified that is holding you back is that you do not have patience. Let's say someone in your meeting is wasting your time, or they do not come to an end and they keep on rambling and rambling. Then you might notice that you get frustrated because that one person is so slow, because that one person is taking a lot of your time. And the thing is, when you feel frustrated, other people will notice. You will be grudgy, you'll be someone that no one wants to hang around with, and this is a behavior pattern that will hold you back. There are thousands, if not millions of other behavior patterns that are subconscious that will ruin our progress in life that we have to change to progress. And by working on correctives, we will buy ourselves time to fix our old behavior patterns that are holding us back. A corrective in this example, in this system, is something like taking a deep breath when you notice that you're falling back to an old behavior pattern. For the sake of simplicity, let's keep this patience example. If you notice that you're getting frustrated and you are about to explode, then you have to have a corrective in place to change that pattern. As already mentioned, a deep breath could be one way. Another thing could be to close your eyes, to really think about what your intentions are. Do you want to hurt the feelings of the other person, or do you want to help them improve? So work on your intentions, and by knowing that you have kind intentions, you can frame your message in a different way that will not lead them to feeling the power of your frustration. And this leads us to our second point. After having correctives that buy ourselves time when we want to change, we can then work on adapting the new behavior pattern that we want to adapt. So let's say instead of reacting frustrated, instead of being mean to that person that is so slow, that is wasting your time, you want to change your behavior pattern to something more productive. Let's say you want to give them a heads up, hey, we've already covered this topic, let's please move on to the next one. This is a new behavior pattern, and you need time to change to a person that has this sort of behavior pattern ingrained into themselves, because you're not only working on learning something new, but you're working on unlearning something that was negative to you, that was almost part of your nature. Therefore, correctives are important to buy time, and we have to have clear awareness of what we want to adapt now. After adapting that new behavior pattern, we have to move on to the next step, and that is to reflect and to iterate. If we see that this new behavior pattern is good for us, that our hypothesis is working, and that we are making progress in adapting this new behavior pattern, then everything is going fine. Because one important thing is we will never get rid of old behavior patterns completely. We will always be in danger of falling back to them. That's why it's important to always be aware of what is going on and to always reflect on how our progress is. By reflecting and then iterating, we will be miles ahead of a lot of people that are only stuck in fixing their habits but still falling back in vicious behavior patterns. So, to conclude this video, if you want to make lasting change in life, if you want to become a person that is mentally equipped to achieve the things that you set out to do, then you have to work on your foundation, and that is working on your behavior patterns. And to do so, we have covered a two-step system. And the first step is to, first of all, know ourselves. And after knowing ourselves, we can work on changing ourselves. And we have to always be aware that we will always fall back to our old behavior patterns. Therefore, we have to set ourselves up for success. And setting ourselves up for success means that we have to take small steps at times to make this huge monumental change in our nature. And after fixing our behavior patterns, after mastering these, we can then work on fixing our habits. And by approaching this entire topic of improving ourselves, of making lasting change, we will be equipped to make habits that are aligned with our behavior patterns that we have newly adopted. And if you want to dive deeper into the topic of self-mastery on a holistic level, then make sure to check out the Sculpt community with the link in the description. There you will be surrounded by like-minded individuals that want to not only improve themselves, but to become the best performing people they can become. So check it out with the link in the description. And with that said, have a great day, have a great evening, have a great morning. Cheers.